is there any met issues? I mean, great, you got boron. Everyone talks about how great we have this, but do you know if there's any potential met issues?
Well, look, in the flow sheet, all this because the borates are a lower density and they're acid soluble. Our flow sheet doesn't, so it goes straight into a tailing stream. So the good thing about it is it's already been mined and processed. So the techniques that are employed in Russia and China will involve, because it's acid soluble, and like iron air has, these sort of processing techniques are just exactly what they do. They produce, and then you'll produce a tin concentrate and an iron concentrate out of it. So, yes, those techniques haven't been employed in Australia or outside of that Russia and China sphere, but would help us see our we can see clear pathways towards getting this work done. About doing this, these techniques aren't, just because it's done in Russia and China doesn't mean we can't do it in Australia or in the Western world. So, and what's really interesting is that the whole world's, this climate change thematic and critical minerals. The whole world's, there's lots of groups out there who are trying to produce things cheaper, cleaner than ever before. And I'm not going to say they're all going to stick, but there might be. Here we have technology done that works today in Russia and China, but it's probably new technology that may come out of left field, which we'll look at those options as well. There might be something that even can treat it better, but we think there's before we weren't sure, but now that CSIRO have done the work, we're a lot more confident, and now that we know the scale of the opportunity, we think they're naturally separated in terms of metallurgy for all those reasons I just spoke about. And so therefore it's ideal really to have a tailing stream that has some significant value. And the great thing about it is when that goes through, it's still got the scheelite, it's still got the tungsten, the magnetite and the copper going with it. So that's going to go through and get recovered as normal anyway, along with the cassiterite tin. So it's just a small addition to the plant. So it's very, very economical indeed. So, we're quietly confident.
Do you know of a percentage? We spoke about it. I'm not sure if we stated the figure about like what you were going to recover in terms of your total potential tin resource. Now that you've got this tin borate that you can recover from, are we talking about like you only were able to recover 40% of the cassiterite? I mean, from cassiterite? Or?
Maybe. Well, look, cassiterite maybe only is a, quarter to a third of the component. Okay. And of course, it's not just like a line. There's cassiterite here, and then the borates are here, tin borates here. It's, there's usually a bit mixed in here, and there's a bit mixed. It's never that straightforward, but it'll be a gradual phasing out of that typical scar and zonation, and that's why if you restrict yourself, it becomes a lot more difficult. And as when you go underground, the costs go up, so your cut-off grade will go up. Your plant's smaller, so costs would go up. Though we think we could probably we could probably get the cost down based upon the new work we're doing. But and of course there's inflation, which we're all battling. But with those increased costs, I think you start looking at these other opportunities, and can I have more revenue? And it's it was something we've been working in parallel at the time, and then as we were doing the work on the study, we soon started to realise that it was too important to leave out. You've got a fair chunk of this tin in the system. Like we've got 45 million tonnes in our resource, and we were looking at potentially a mine which is 20% of that sort of size.
20% of
total resource.
Total resource.
And that's why we went open pit the first time. Open pit we had 14 million tonnes of reserves. But remember, you had 45 million tonnes of resource.
Okay.
So, as you go underground, you've got higher costs, and then it becomes harder to. So it's going to shrink even more here, naturally.
Yeah.
But we were happy to do that because lower cost. I mean, do a smaller capex operation. We're looking for something much larger. We're still very committed to being underground.
Yep.
But instead of having these smaller stopes, much larger stopes, taking the whole system, having all the economies of scale going underground, have an impact on costs. And if you're able to be looking at all your or much higher percentage of your resources, I'm not saying all 45 million tonnes will convert, but we've got a good chance we could be getting I don't know, maybe 70 or 80% conversion.
Okay. So we're talking about tin, right? The tin, or we're talking about the boron.
Oh, I'm probably talking about the tin, the tungsten, magnetite.
All inclusive.
No, and we really haven't modelled what impact boron has yet. But we've got to do the work to get bed down the recoveries, get that part of the flow sheet added in. The rest of this flow sheet's pretty well settled. The new one. Still got a little bit of work to do on that. But if this adjunct, we produce a flow sheet, we've got to get the capital costs and the operating costs. Of course, being tailings, the operating costs can be reasonably modest. And because if you're going to build this mine, you want to build it and get it right the first time, not just add a boron circuit later.
That would help.
That would help, yeah. So I think the scale of this opportunity, bit of a revelation with the network, and certainly, the world has stood up and took notice of the boron industry, and not everyone knows about it, but when Ioneer got written out a check for $700 million to go and build that project, but it's being held up once subject to environmental permit. But of course, the permitting there's an issue there at the moment they have to deal with, and the mine, the boron mine in California for Rio continues to run out of reserves. So the race is on, if you like.